A very good morning, Team Zimbabwe. A very good afternoon and a very good evening to others as well, depending on your location. My name is Ronald Wekwamakusha, and we really need to talk about this important issue. There is a bill which was passed in Parliament. It was passed by the lower house, and it was also passed by the upper house of the Parliament of the Republic of Zimbabwe. And we really need to take a closer look onto this issue and agree as citizens the way forward about this bill, which is which has passed Parliament, and it awaits the ascension from the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa. So, what is happening is key, and we cannot ignore this as the citizens, and we really need to take a look onto this issue seriously. And for us to be able to do so, let us bring this live here onto the screen so that we'll be able to have a proper discussion. So, right, it's here. The bill is here, and this bill, it's a criminal law codification and reform amendment. So it touches very important issues and very key issues. And first issue here, clause number 1, it sets out the bill in terms of its short title. Then clause 2, it inserts a new section 22A of the Principal Act. So our constitutional order of Zimbabwe, that is based on parliamentary democracy, affords many avenues of aggrieved citizens to redress their wrongs internally, including against the state. It is therefore improper for citizens and residents of Zimbabwe, by recourse to foreign countries, to seek or to implement measures that undermine our sovereignty, dignity, independence as a nation. This clause will criminalize such conduct. So, it's clear here that they say that there are so many avenues that if I am aggrieved as a citizen and I want a redress against the state, it's improper for me as a citizen or any resident in Zimbabwe to seek recourse to foreign countries or to seek to implement measures that undermine sovereignty of Zimbabwe, dignity and independence as a nation. So what are these issues? Because it's very difficult for us to come up with a definition of whatever they are saying. So number 1, let us understand that if an election is stolen, I go to court, the court is captured, I have nowhere to go. Because in Zimbabwe, we have the courts, especially the Constitutional Court, as the last resort. Let's say the Constitutional Court has refused to hear my case. Let's say the Constitutional Court, I'm supposed to bring lawyers, but I don't have money. I'm supposed to do a lot of things which involve money, which involve understanding the law itself. So you see that as a citizen, I no longer have any where to go. I cannot go to outside Zimbabwe. I cannot go to United Nations. I cannot go to SADC. I cannot go to AU to have these issues resolved. Because the moment I go to SADC, I am bringing in other countries. The moment I go to AU, I am bringing in other countries. The moment I go to United Nations, I am bringing in other countries to resolve and to deal with any matters which may arise in the nation of Zimbabwe. What it means if the Constitutional Court declares the government of President Emerson Mnangagwa as the elected government this 2023, it means we cannot go anywhere. That is so wrong. Just looking at this clause number 2. And clause number 3, it talks about the amendment of Section 65 of the Principal Act to put 15 years as the minimum mandatory sentence for rape. There's been widespread concerns over the rising incidence of heinous crime of sexual violence and rape. It has been seen fit that more deterrent measures should be put in place to stamp out the crime. This is about the issues of rape. And they say clause number 4, this clause will amend section 155 of the Principal Act on the definition of dangerous drug to include prepared opium, prepared cannabis, cannabis resin as a scheduled drug. It further adds the definition of industrial hemp. Then clause number 5, it speaks about the current framing of offense of criminal abuse of office. This one speaks about the abuse of office. And they say it is very broad in its scope, that it gives room for public officers to be prosecuted for honest mistake made during the course of their duties. Hence, the amendment will limit the crime to include an essential element of knowledge on part of the public official that his or her conduct was illegal. So this is another issue. So these are the key issues when we are talking about this bill. So let us go onto this issue in detail. This is number 2, insertion of new section, Chapter 907. The Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act, Chapter 923, number 23 of 2004, after called the Principal Act, is amended by the insertion of the following section, 22. 22A, willfully injuring the sovereignty and the national interest of Zimbabwe. In this section, actively partake in relation to any meeting means partake therein with the intention of, or in the role of, or promoting, advancing, encouraging, instigating, and advocating for the object for which the meeting is convened. For the avoidance of doubt, no person contravenes this section who, at the meeting concerned, discourages or repudiates any object, the promotion, advancement, encouragement, or instigation of which, or advocacy for which, would have rendered that the person liable for prosecution under this section. So, if the person discourages or repudiates what they are saying is a criminal offense, you are excluded. Then they went to say agent, proxy, or entity in relation to the agent, proxy, or entity of a foreign government means any person that the accused knew or had grounds for believing was acting on behalf of or with the knowledge, approval of or acquaintance of the foreign government concerned, or any person about whom it is reasonable to suppose that he or she was acting on behalf of or with the knowledge, approval, and acquiescence of the foreign government concerned. Then there is an issue of economic sanctions or trade boycott, means any law or binding direction by a foreign government prohibiting persons subject to its jurisdiction from investing in Zimbabwe or from engaging in any economic activity in or with Zimbabwe or with any entity of Zimbabwe, which investment or activity is beneficial to the people of Zimbabwe as a whole and makes or potentially may make a substantial contribution to their economic development. For avoidance of doubt, but subject to subjection 6, an advisor or like non-binding admonition by a foreign government discouraging persons subject to its jurisdiction from investing in Zimbabwe, from engaging in any economic activity in or with Zimbabwe or with any entity of Zimbabwe is not to be considered as falling within the scope of the phrase economic sanctions or trade boycott. So it's very important to say that they go on to say meeting means by any communication between two or more persons, whether happening in person or virtually, by a combination of both, which involves or is facilitated or convened by foreign government or any of its agents, proxies, or entities. So what it means is that we now have the people of Zimbabwe being prohibited to take a stand on international forums, to take a stand on international activities which have anything or which have the bearing on the issues of democracy, using this, because we are saying just meeting or having a communication between, and this is so wrong. So you see that even without getting into any meeting which has anything to do with military intervention by any government, it shows that the Zimbabwean person might be arrested, might be charged, might be tried, and might be put behind bars for simply meeting someone, even if there is no enough evidence. Kungooneka chete mchimhorosana maoko. Why do I say so? If we take a look on the issue of Jacob Ngaruvume, he clearly stated that let us do this peacefully, but 4 years behind bars. So that precedence which has been set is wrong. It is wrong. So taking a deeper look onto this issue, you will see that this issue does not speak about anything to do with stealing or looting resources from Zimbabwe. It doesn't deal with the issues of looting resources from Zimbabwe. It doesn't deal with, because there are people who are not meeting with any foreign governments, but they are taking resources from Zimbabwe, they smuggle them through the borders outside Zimbabwe to other countries. They go through Mozambique, South Africa, and whatever country they may use. They may use international airports whatsoever. There is no law to deal with these people. There is no law to deter people from being involved in such activities. The question is, why are you not using the same? Because we have two issues here. We have the issue of sanctions. We have the issue of corruption. You cannot dismiss corruption as a cause of economic failure in Zimbabwe. There is massive corruption to an extent where if we are to investigate certain people, the way they built their houses, the cars they drive, the lifestyle they enjoy, and ask them, where are you getting this money? You will not have answers. They don't have businesses. They have nothing to show. But they have built world-class houses. Their kids are attending world-class schools. Their kids are going abroad for university. With the economic turmoil we are in, these are people working within the government of Zimbabwe, but their standard of life, there is no law about that. There is no law which is dealing with the looting, with the plunder of resources, with the economic meltdown caused by corruption. There is no law. So you see that, honestly speaking, by just looking on these few issues, it shows that the government is not sincere. So generally, the bill, it will create the crime of willfully damaging the sovereignty and national interests of Zimbabwe, and it will provide a mandatory minimum prison sentences for rape, then the issue of my drugs, and then the issue of you see that the penalties for the crime are, number one, you are faced with a penalty of 20 years imprisonment. Secondly, you are faced with a penalty of losing your citizenship. So you will see that all those issues, they are not proper. So if you want to subvert or overthrow the government, if they suspect you that is your mission, you'll be charged, you'll be prosecuted, you'll be tried. If you are convicted, 20 years in prison. If you speak about sanctions, 10 years in prison. So we have another issue of the citizenship. If you are convicted and you have dual citizenship, you have to, your citizenship shall be revoked. Or if you are a citizen by registration, that citizenship shall be revoked. Then on that one, we don't have much concern. But let's say somebody does have dual citizenship, but originally comes from Zimbabwe. What if that person's citizenship is revoked elsewhere? What will happen? Those are the issues. Then there is prohibition of holding public office for a period between 5 and 15 years. There is an issue of you not being allowed to be a registered voter for a period of 5 years to 15 years. Those issues are critical. It means with the current situation in Zimbabwe, where the courts are no longer trusted and the courts are being weaponized and being used by the regime, it means you might wake up one day, my opposition champions essay, they are no longer eligible to hold public office. They are no longer eligible to vote, which means you create a chaos. You create a situation where you have a presidential candidate who cannot participate in the elections. So let us take a look on the planning armed intervention or subversion. There is an overlap between the new crime insofar as it involves planning armed intervention or subverting the government and the existing crimes of treason, Section 20 of the Criminal Law Code, and subverting constitutional government, Section 22 of the Code. So we already have these things within the Criminal Code, and when we have this new law, there is an overlap. It means that we are now going to use two sections, different sections, to deal with one crime, because the crime of planning armed intervention has been there. Treason has been there in Section 20, which means this new law, it overlaps. It makes the other law invalid because, number one, somebody might be arrested using Section 20, and others will suggest that you are supposed to use Section 21. Section 22. So you see that all those things, they are not so proper, and it will be difficult because the penalties in the other section and the penalties in the new section, they differ, which creates a problem. And it also shows that there was lack of diligence in terms of how this law was crafted. There was no diligent work done by both the people who crafted this and both parliament. So the sanctions and boycotts, this is a new crime, and it penalizes the consideration, planning, or implementing of sanctions or boycotts. It will be a serious deterrent to free speech in Zimbabwe. So if you say this government is corrupt, let us have a boycott. Let us stay at home. Let us stay away. For us to send a clear message, this is an issue of protest. Sometimes we may say, let us boycott this institution which is failing to adhere to A, B, C, D. It will be a crime. So boycotts, they have been said, is now a crime. If we boycott elections, it's not a crime. If we boycott a bad product, it's not a crime. So if you attend a meeting in order to plan or to implement sanctions, it will be a crime if the meeting merely considers them unmuguzon. So sanctions may be imposed on Zimbabwe for a variety of reasons. They may, for example, be intended to persuade the government to comply with the country's international obligations. Let's say United Nations yaisa sanctions on Zimbabwe, and those sanctions, they are necessary. Zimbabwe is obliged by the international community to adhere to United Nations rules and regulations. If sanctions are placed, what does that mean? If AU places sanctions on Zimbabwe, if SADC places sanctions on Zimbabwe, the citizens of Zimbabwe are not allowed to comment anything about that. So you will see that that is a problem, because sometimes we will come and say, can you act and do A, B, C, D for these sanctions to be removed, and you'll be arrested? So you see that that is so wrong. So we will not be able to seek legal recourse to SADC, to AU, to United Nations. We will not be able to do anything as Zimbabweans. Taazvikukuvata-vata, taakungoti zvataurwa nevakuru ndizvozvo toombera maoko. There is no longer opposition in Zimbabwe because once you oppose, you'll be told that you are going against national interest. Remember that foreign governments might react from the actions of the opposition. Let's say, as the opposition, we have uncovered something which is happening in Zimbabwe, which is not correct, which is not good, and we have reported it within Zimbabwe. And the foreign governments, let's say we have made a court case, and that court case is dismissed. Then the foreign governments decides to look into that case. They see that indeed there was a violation of ABCD, and they decide to sanction Zimbabwe. Are we not going to have a situation where we have our people being arrested, even if they have not associated with any government, but they are seeking recourse within the government, within the nation of Zimbabwe? We might see such things happening, and you'll be told, Kuti, if you had not held any meeting with ABCD, so those are the issues, and these are the issues we really need to take a look on, and the issues we really need to consider when we are voting this 2023. Because if we fail to do that, we are going to have more problems, more troubles for the people of Zimbabwe, because this is clear a violation of the international laws, clear violation of the constitutional rights of the people of Zimbabwe. There are certain constitutional obligations and constitutional rights which must be respected by the by the government, especially the right to be a citizen of Zimbabwe, the right to be heard, the right to speak out, the freedom of speech and whatever. All those rights, they're very important and they need to be protected. But if the government of Zimbabwe is determined to do this, as the people of Zimbabwe will only have one duty. That is, the civic duty will be to speak with one voice through the ballot during these elections, which are coming on the 23rd of August. So let us vote for Advocate Nelson Chamisa. Let us participate in these elections. Make sure that we vote wisely. Make sure that we challenge the status quo. We do the rightful thing. Talk to our parents, talk to our relatives, that they will not be spared from this law. They will not be spared from all these laws which are being placed by these people. So I think I've just covered a few things about this Patriotic Act, and we'll be taking a look further. Kana President Vasaina Wava Mutemo, will see the way forward. We'll see how the prosecution is going to deal with these issues, how the prosecution is going to prosecute these matters, because the definition of these crimes is going to be very difficult. We are not going to be able to know kuti waita definition yakanaka here, because you might tweet something for the Zimbabweans and somebody from the international community gets involved into that, and you are in trouble the next day. So you see that the people of Zimbabwe will no longer be able to speak out. The people of Zimbabwe will no longer be able to confront the government in terms of having respect of the rule of law in the nation of Zimbabwe. There is no point in time where we saw Zimbabweans advocating for any military intervention against the government of Zimbabwe. I have not seen the opposition leaders or the lead opposition leaders suggesting that. We have always seen the opposition leaders speaking about elections, speaking about winning elections, speaking about respect of the laws, such that we have a free, fair, credible elections. Those are the only issues I have seen. So I don't know, Team Zimbabwe, your comments or your thoughts about this bill. Let us meet in other episodes and other broadcasts.